Mike Evans' left cleat slipped on the field as he was trying to make this catch, and it resulted in a pretty bad looking knee hyperextension, putting his and the Buccaneers' playoff hopes in jeopardy. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about the unique medical side of the world of sports. All we know so far is Evans is ruled out with a left knee injury, so we'll talk about the possible structures that can be hurt with a knee hyperextension and take kind of a frame-by-frame look at this play. As always, if you enjoy learning about this unique side of sports, please consider subscribing and be sure and follow me over on Twitter for more real-time breakdowns and analysis, and let's get started. As Evans is going in to try to make this catch, he has to slow up a little bit because the ball is coming a little bit more behind him than he expects. And so as he's doing that, he puts his left heel into the ground, and this is where things go wrong. Right away, we can see here that left heel starts to slip forward on the field, and that's when his left knee goes into this pretty severe looking hyperextension that we can see right down through here. Going through that one more time, he slows up a bit to get this catch, and then as that left heel hits, slides completely on the turf. His center of momentum carries him forward over the knee joint, causing him to get this hyperextension with even what looks like a little bit of varus positioning here with the knee bent outward. Ultimately, then the foot comes to a stop. That hyperextension goes away and he goes down to the turf. Evans doesn't seem to be in a ton of pain, but as he goes to get up, we can see it basically looks like that left knee essentially just wants to completely kind of give out on him, and that causes him to go back down to the ground. The severity of a knee hyperextension depends on, of course, first off, how severe the hyperextension is, but then also whether or not there's a force that comes in to make contact with the player to put them into even further forced hyperextension. Also then looking at if the knee position falls inward or outward, because I can put more stress on the collateral ligaments. Initially in this position, everything looks to be pretty good in terms of this frontal plane alignment with the knee falling in or falling out. But then as Evans slips a little bit more here, even though his hips are starting to open up a little bit more towards us, in this position still, it looks like his knee is aligned pretty well straight forward. But then as we get a little bit more into this positioning here, it does look like right there, kind of in that moment, now we can see that there's a little bit of a varus position of his knee, meaning it looks like it's pointed a little bit outward relative to where his foot is, which can of course put more stress on these particularly outer ligaments of the knee. Our relevant anatomy is highlighted here, and you might not recognize some of these things because I've got additional structures shown. The first here is this is the joint capsule. It's this fibrous lining that sort of goes all the way around the joint to help maintain the joint space. Like the other tissues, this capsule can become stretched and injured, and especially in the backside here, the posterior joint capsule, because again, if we're looking at the knee from the side, as it hyperextends, that tibia is coming forward relative to the femur, and so that's gonna pull everything here on the backside of the knee. If we get rid of that, you can still see how we've got a lot of other ligaments here that probably don't look that familiar to you. Depending on how severe the hyperextension is, and particularly if there's some varus or valgus force there, you do have to worry about an ACL tear and a PCL tear. The ACL in red and the PCL in blue are highlighted here. And again, same sort of thing. If you imagine taking this tibia down low, pulling it forward to hyperextend the knee, you can get stretching of this PCL, you can get some impingement of these ligaments that can cause them to be injured. So yeah, we do have to worry about an ACL tear here for Evans. Another common injury with a hyperextension is at least a bone bruise or a bone contusion. Particularly here, these two kind of bumps on the front of the femur are called the femoral condyles. When you get hyperextension, you bring this femoral condyle closer down into contact with the tibia, which can cause increased pressure and force that causes a bone contusion that can also keep guys out for a number of weeks. Again, on the inside here, the knee is our MCL, but then if we rotate around to the outside, there's probably a lot more ligaments here than you thought we had. Of course, we've got our primary LCL that sits on the outside, but then we've got a lot of these other little ligaments that sit here in an area that we call the posterolateral corner. And again, depending on how much side to side pull there is in the knee, the severity of hyperextension, we have to worry about injuries to these structures, which can make this a much more complicated injury. Knowing our anatomy, let's go back again to the play here. Again, he plants with that left foot. Ideally, he wouldn't slip forward and he'd be able to stop and control and stabilize his knee to make this catch. The foot slips forward. His knee goes into hyperextension right here. This is gonna stretch that posterior capsule, potentially stress and injure the ACL and the PCL. And then as he gets into a little bit more of a varus position here, that's gonna pull more on these outside ligaments, like the LCL, those posterolateral corner structures. Here in this position, he's getting pressure between the femur and the tibia that can cause a bone bruise. It's really hard to say severity just from looking at this. You know, from some research studies, they say around 30 degrees of hyperextension is where you start to hit a critical point for the ACL and PCL. It looks like he's about here or past it, maybe 40 degrees or so. So yeah, I think there is some real concern here that this could be a potentially pretty bad injury for Evans. That's it for the video, everybody. I hope this was educational to take a look at this. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know any questions or comments down below. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.